In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace front shocks on a Jeep Wrangler located behind the front wheel. With the vehicle on the ground, open the hood. It's easier to access the top of the shock with the weight of the vehicle on the ground. So once you've lifted the hood and the vehicle's on the ground, this hole in this fender well, that is the top of the shock right there. You can see the nut on the stud, and it's a 9/16 normally, at least this one is. So I'm going to put a socket on there, and then down below, we're going to put a pair of locking pliers on there to stop that stud from spinning. Let me show you something. On a tool like this, I don't know if you're aware of it, but if your locking pliers have that little Allen head on the bottom, no need of squeezing and hurting your hand. You just lock them on and then tighten it up by spinning this. Now my lug nuts on this vehicle are a 21mm socket. You might have a 19 or a 7/8. But remove the tire. So the bolts mount on this front differential. So the bolts come down. There's usually nuts on the bottom or it's facing upward. These have been replaced at one point. So this is going to be a 13mm. Usually the factory is a 1/2 inch on top and bottom. I have a 10mm on the top wrench, but these have been replaced. There's 2 of them. Take the bolt out. If they're good enough, like these are new, I'm going to reuse them. If you need to, please replace them. So 13mm, 10mm on the top. Now we can take that bolt out and then pull that shock right out. There you go. So once you unbox your shock, you're going to get 2 rubber bushings, 2 flat washers, a nut, and then a locking nut. The locking nut is the thinner of the 2. See how thin that one is compared to that one? That just goes on the top to stop it from loosening up. You're going to have this package tape on it. It's compressing that shock. So you're going to push it down, or you can just cut it and let it expand up to the right height. Now this is where what I call starting a shock or a strut. It's the same thing. You're going to push down until you feel it getting too hard to push down, so I do that about 3 times. They call starting the shock. Preferably, I don't tip it upside down. I go from this way. And you're going to do this 2 or 3 times. You don't want that shock to have any air. You want to activate the gas. So to install the bushings, you take the flat washer facing upward. Take 1 bushing with that little cutout pushing up. These are going to go on the top the same way. So you're going to go like that in the flat washer, but you have to put it through the vehicle first, and then we'll put the nuts on. So now we can take our shock, line it up on there, pull down on it, see if we can get that stud to go through just a little bit. Nice. I like to put the bolts down and the nuts on the bottom. Start it by hand. Do the same to the back. So it's a little tricky to get up in there. I'm just going to snug them up because we're going to torque them to factory specs. All right, let's go with that. So 13mm socket on the bottom, 10mm wrench on the top, and the torque is 20 foot-pounds or 28 Newton-meters, 250 inch-pounds. Go to the front. Double check. Now we can move on to the top. We can put our bushing on first, then our washer. So just like that, slide it over that top of that shock, put the nut on, and I'm just holding it in place because once I get the tires on and I lower it down, that's when I'm going to tighten this up and torque it. Now we can put the tire on, and once the tire is on, we can lower it and tighten up the shock. I'm going to snug them up in a star crisscross pattern. So now you can see as we lower the car, you'll watch that shock bottom out, and that's why you can't tighten it till it's down on the ground on full suspension load. With a 5/8 socket, now you can tighten your shock. Make sure that that tower is not spinning. I'm going to snug it right up. Mostly you would tighten a shock until you see that rubber bushing just start to collapse and mushroom. You don't ever want it to overpower the actual washer. Sometimes you'll see people tighten them so that the rubber is on the outside of the washer. It's coned over, and that is not the correct way. It's kind of bottoming out. And I'm going to go get the torque wrench because the torque is only 17 foot-pounds. Hold on to the top of the shock and snug it to 17 foot-pounds. Now we can put that additional nut on. That's the thinner nut. That's considered a lock nut. Place that right over the top. Same size socket. And that one we're just going to lock it down over. So I put a 5/8 wrench on that bottom nut and the socket on the top, and I just want them to compress together, and now that's locked. So the wheel torque is 83 to 115 foot-pounds, anywhere in between. I'm going to go with 110 because it's an 03 model that I'm working on, and that's original studs, so they're kind of stretched. Make sure you go in the star pattern, double check. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.